Welcome back, Earthlings. Today's video will be on random fascinating questions for independent and open-ended explorations. Now this will be the last in the Math and Nature and Art mini section in this Art of Math series. So this won't be even covering one topic, so let's just dive in. So first thing, I don't think I'd mentioned this before, but I highly recommend you guys click the bell below the video to stay updated. That way you get all the notifications when I come out with new videos. Okay, so let me let the cat out of the bag. One day I'd like to create or be part of helping to create the education of the future, specifically a school of the future. Think X-Men and the school for the gifted, but not an exclusive sort of thing, but a school to empower anybody eager to learn. So as part of that, this Art of Math, this AOM series, is only one component, and I hope people will improve on what I've done and find more effective and fun ways of teaching. In the school of the future, I envision another major component will be students' own independent explorations, perhaps collaborative as well on occasion or at certain points. To that end, students should be encouraged to pursue their own ideas and topics of interest, as well as presented with loads of open-ended, fascinating questions and topics to stimulate their curiosity and jumpstart their explorations. There is no way I can do even 1% of an adequate job of that in this single video, but I'd like to really advocate for that direction and give you guys ideas of what I mean. So that's my dream, to really transform the education of the future and maybe be part of some sort of school. Alright, the purpose of this video. So I want to encourage you guys to engage in your own open-ended explorations and to give you guys some initial ideas of what I mean by this. So primarily it's just to encourage you guys to explore. So if you get nothing else from this video, hopefully you just realize, hey, I have a lot of curiosities, and that's totally part of math too, and that, like, I don't feel bad or like, oh, it has to be a structured thing, and if it's not like my algebra class or something official in school, then it doesn't count. That can be way more worthwhile. So if you have any questions, curiosities, please go and explore them and spend as much time as you need. So so these are kind of two ideas. So I want you guys to go and explore and question a lot, and then I want to give you guys some initial ideas of what I mean by this. In addition, perhaps this can trigger ideas in other educators as well as possible collaborations, maybe on other YouTube channels, who knows. So some of the questions presented in this video have existing answers, while others don't, while others have partial answers or competing theories. I want to emphasize that this video is not about giving you guys the answers, but about getting you excited and about asking questions and thinking about them. So the next question is, how do you combine this Art of Math series and what I'm advocating in this video, which is to engage in random explorations? So in the school of the future, there will be a lot of experimentation as to how best to teach kids. One example of an open question that could be answered through research and experimentation is how to combine the structured AOM series with the less structured but critical open-ended student-initiated random explorations. So as of now, I recommend mixing it up, following along the structured Art of Math playlist, but also doing a little random tangent exploration. So for students in traditional schools, probably I'd say 80% on the structured Art of Math playlist and 20% of their time on the exploration. For homeschool students or adult learners, perhaps 50-50 or even 20-80. So this balance may depend on the skills and interests of the student, the teacher, the topic, on how the student is feeling that specific day, week, month, etc. And many more factors. So I recommend basically an organic approach where the student or teacher listens closely to how they feel. So for example, if a student is eager to improve his skills in algebra, then I'd say work on the structured playlist. Other times, if the student is restless or has some specific ideas or the moment is right, it's okay and even great to go on an exploratory tangent. And it need not be short. It can morph from a few minutes to an afternoon to an entire project, and maybe even something the teacher or student wants to bring to the attention of others. So in a nutshell, treat it as an organic experimentational approach when you're thinking like, should I go more of a structured learning approach or should I engage in my questions? I'd say a bit of both, but do it as you see fit. All right. So there must be a balance in education. And to me, the ultimate test is not what a student knows, which is traditionally the way it works, but how much a student is excited about learning. That determines the success of an educational system, because you may know a lot now, but maybe you no longer feel excited about learning. So I'd much rather you feel like, hey, maybe you have a lot of gaps, or maybe you're a little behind, but you're really excited, because over the long haul, that's what's going to get you to explore and put in more work and learn more. So your attitude towards learning. And that's just not just on your end, that's on our end too, and how teachers and educators present that material to you guys. All right, so without further ado, here's some of the types of questions and topics I have in mind. And again, some of these might not be of any interest to you, but hopefully some of these sparks, like some of these big ideas or even little ideas of what I'm talking about. So a lot of these basically have to do with why and how questions. So if there's anything you're curious about, ask yourself, like, why does this work? How does this work about everything you encounter? So, for example, number one, are they, and if so, why are flower petals Fibonacci numbers? So I did a video that touched upon that. I don't think it completely answered it, but you may want to check out the number 102 video in this series. Another question. So these next few relate to what might be called in math the topic of breaking symmetry. So it's symmetry and when symmetry is broken. So, but they extend into biology as well as many other disciplines. So for example, why is there chirality in humans? Now I'm not sure how to pronounce this word, but basically think of this as, this applies to many things. You could just think of it as asymmetry. But for this one, I mean left-handedness versus right-handedness. So why are some folks left-handed while others are right-handed? And there might be good evolutionary reasons, but you can certainly Google it and get a lot of theories. But to me, the most valuable part is see what you guys can come up with on your own. Think for yourselves first, and maybe you can get some theories going, like why might it be advantageous? Why are there, say, more right-handed? Is this just a cultural artifact? Is it just because, let's say, the church or the religious institutions didn't want there to be left-handed because they thought it was like the devil? Think about it for yourselves. All right. B. Now this may seem a little like gross and disgusting, but it's actually like a really legitimate question. So why do we humans, and you could think about other animals too, why do we have two waste openings for peeing and pooping? I mean, why not just one? For example, birds don't have two separate ones. They combine their liquid and solid waste. So like from a symmetry perspective, why would we need two waste openings? And there's good reasons, but think for yourselves. All right. C. Why do we have two legs? Why don't we have three legs? Why don't we have one leg? I mean, one leg you might think, okay, be a little hard and awkward to move around. Why not four? I mean, some animals or, insects, let's say spiders, some have more. So think what might, there's evolution and just think what's so special about two? Is there a mathematical reason why two would be more advantageous for the type of motion we undergo? So just think about it. All right, D, snakes. So actually, let me go back. So for the two waste openings, some animals only have one, like let's say an earthworm or maybe a bird, but in some very simple organisms I've read reuse their mouth as their waste opening. So that sounds kind of gross, but okay, I thought I just mentioned that. All right, so D, snakes. Why do snakes have two eyeballs instead of one? That may seem like a silly question, but it's not necessarily such a silly question. So there's kind of two theories that I have or I've discussed or come across, and I'm not quite sure which one it is at this moment, but I encourage you guys to think about it after thinking, maybe Google it, explore it. So one theory might be just the pure evolution, natural selection theory, which is saying that, okay, maybe in the beginning they kind of evolved to favor some sort of eyesight. Maybe some had no eyeballs, some had one, some had three, some had two, and two was the most efficient choice, so that won out, and those are the snakes that survived. Fair enough. Maybe two because you could see predators from both sides. Two gives you depth perception, because if you had only one, it's hard to really have good depth perception. You'd have to sort of turn your head very quickly. So maybe that's the natural selection theory. The other theory might be sort of more of the math theory, but this is not necessarily correct. So just this is a little idea I had, could be very wrong. So maybe 2 was the only likely choice in the first place. So imagine you're a snake and you have no eyeballs. And now gradually through evolution, there's a pressure because you realize, hey, having some sort of detection of vision detection is pretty useful. So let's try to add that in. So that's a useful mutation. However, let's say this is the front of the snake. So I've just created an idealized snake, which is just a cylinder. This is, let's say, the eyeball that some snake is trying to, like, there's a mutation that's going to cause an eyeball. Well, if you maybe initially the whole front is like the mouth. So this is the whole mouth. So if the whole front is the mouth, that's easy for eating. But if you want to put just one eyeball, that means the mouth has to move down. And so by one mutation, maybe it's difficult to get both an eyeball and to get the mouth to move down at the same time. Whereas if you get 2 little eyeballs on the sides, maybe they're really angled out. So that doesn't really force the mouth to move anywhere. So think of like a frog or something where the eyeballs are really pointed out to the sides. And maybe through evolution, then I could see a gradual process by which the mouth is shrunk a little bit and the eyes are kind of moved a little more forward so they're not completely pointed to the sides. So anyway, so think, is it just pure natural selection, or was the one eyeball not ever even like likely? Or were there 1 eyeballs and 2 eyeballs and the 2 eyeballs just won out? So to me, that's one of the questions I would have. All right, E. So in general, why is there bilateral symmetry? So why are there 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, but only 1 mouth? So think about that in, symmetry terms. Just think about, why do you think that is? All right. Number 3. So again, this is just a short list. There's literally millions of questions. Okay, so physics. I have a boatload of these questions, so I'm not even going to try to put them in here, but it has to do with space, time, dark matter, all this crazy stuff. So I'm going to put a lot of questions, maybe like 15 or 20 of the ones that I've come up with, in the description to the video. So please be sure to check that out. I've put a lot of sort of thought and effort into coming up with those for you guys. So I really encourage you guys to take a look at number 3, the physics questions in the description. 4. Why is ice slippery? So could it be that there's like melting and like liquid at the surface and that's what makes it so slippery? All right, 5. So this is not really a specific question, but why does blank work? So insert your favorite mystery or question. So in the description, I'll mention links to, that I've also included in the previous video as well, to Zipf's law, Benford's law, Stein's paradox. These are all fairly interesting phenomena, and you might want to explore these for starters, but don't limit yourself to these. Like put in whatever. So you could think like, why does that table not fall over? Why does that cat land on its feet? Whatever it is. Why does that person behave the way they do? It doesn't have to even be super technical. It could be like about human behavior, anything really. All right, 6. So why can't we walk through walls? That may seem like a dumb question, but it's not as dumb of a question as you might think. So, well, think about it for yourself, but for this one I might give a little bit away. So for example, atoms are mostly empty space. So you might think, well, if atoms are mostly empty space, is it really like the solidness of matter that's blocking us from walking through walls, or is it something else? So think about it, explore it. I'll let you think about it. Okay, 7. Explore various games or make up your own game. So chess is a good one, Nim is another one, and for like, as a really great sort of bonus, if you're into writing code or if you're curious about computer science and coding, maybe even try to write some code to write your own, let's say, chess program. And if that seems too daunting, you might want to Google around, like Google for some existing maybe exercises and ideas, because you might have to start exactly from scratch. You might have some existing things where you just add on a little bit. So that might make this less of a daunting assignment. But yeah, see if you can write your own little chess engine. That it doesn't have to be that great, but I bet if you put in some time, it probably would beat most, players up to like a master level. All right. So this one is for those of you that are familiar with this. For those of you aren't, you can Google it and explore it. But does P equal NP? So in computer science, this has basically to do with polynomial and non-polynomial time. So there's a lot of problems. So one famous one is this there's a whole class of them, but the traveling salesman problem is a classic one. So let's say all of these points are cities, and you want to know, how do I visit all of these cities only once in the shortest possible way? So for example, like I could just go zigzag all over and crisscross, but that's not the fastest route. So how do we find the shortest path? Now, you could just try all the possibilities, so you could try this, then that, or then this, then that. But because there's a lot of points potentially, that's going to become exponential. So that's what this means in terms of non-polynomial. So the only known way to do this and guarantee you found the optimal solution is to actually try all the possibilities. So you may think, is there a way without trying all the possibilities, but guarantee you found the best solution? And in previous videos on swarm optimization, I talked about how ant colonies can be used as a sort of shortcut to find good solutions. So anyway, think about that. And the cool thing, and by the way, this is a huge problem. So if you were to figure this one out, this would revolutionize the world. All right, 9. So 9 is make up your own, and just stay curious about everything you notice. So again, this is just to get you guys a running start. You know, my hope is you're like, hey, like forget this video, I already have some questions. If so, that's great. So just get going on your questions, and maybe carry on a notebook or a voice recorder or whatever. If it's a smartphone, just jot down some notes. Anything that comes to mind. It's nice to have like a log, a written record of your questions, so you can always think about them. So like for example, Einstein thought about one problem for 10 years before he got anywhere. So that's how a lot of these people make progress. You know, it's not an overnight, oh, here's a question, I figured it out. So just maybe sleep on it. All right. Next, questions, questions, questions. If you want a better answer, you need to ask a better question. Formulating a specific question or coming up with the right question to ask is often half the battle. Question everything. Work on improving your questions, not just your answers. So hopefully this just gets you to realize the importance of questions. They are super, super valuable. There's an emphasis in school on answers, correct answers, but I feel like the people that come up with all the stuff that you guys are learning in school are often more focused on the questions. All right, here's an open invitation. So I invite someone that, for example, it doesn't have to be physics, but for example, A, loves physics, B, is knowledgeable about it, and C, loves teaching, to make an art of math style guide for physics. And in the description, I'll include several links for good resources, such as Mark Levi's book on Why Do Cats Land on Their Feet and 76 other physical paradoxes and puzzles. Then there's The Flying Circus of Physics. I'll include a link to that. There's Physics for Entertainment by Perlman. Anyway, so I'll include those in the description. But I would, make such a series, but I don't feel I have a strong enough background and intuition for physics at this point to do it justice. The same for computer science and many other areas. And it need not be technical. It could be any really thing that an educator feels is sort of missing, and would be great for students. So if done right, these could be taught in a very fun and innovative manner. I see such a collection of guides and possible collaborations amongst them as a huge opportunity for improving education in the future. I know aspects of this probably already exist on the internet and YouTube, which I'm not aware of, so please feel free to point those out as well, and connect me to those people if you feel I've missed something. A quick heads up. So in the future, I'll start a new series with a playlist of random, fun, and challenging logic puzzles and math questions, as opposed to this more structured art of math series. Kind of like a challenge or fun problem of the day. So stay tuned for that as well. So those will have stuff like the secretary problem, truth tellers and liars, hat color problems, all sorts of classic logic puzzles. It's not quite your own independent exploration of questions, but I found, for me personally, this has been really great for opening up my mind and to mix things up. All right. So feedback. Please let me know in the comments if you guys are looking forward to anything in particular that I've mentioned, and or if any parts of the videos particularly resonated with you. This helps me improve and make better videos for you guys. I used to lurk on YouTube for years before I ever commented on videos. I was too scared for the world to see my comments in permanent form. Just know that your comments and feedback are very valuable to me as well as to others, your peers, and ultimately for you because I get to know what's on your minds so I can better connect and communicate and help you guys. So, do you guys, alright, so that's with that. So really thank you in advance for that. Do you guys think I should create a separate playlist dedicated to exploring more such interesting questions to ponder, to develop thinking and creativity in the future? Some of which have answers and some of which currently don't. Let me know if you guys would be interested in that. If so, any sorts of questions in particular, physics for example, human behavior, the arts, which disciplines. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I condensed a ton of interesting random questions into this video, but let me know if there's maybe a particular one or a whole series you'd like to see. The more details you give me, the better. For now, I'd like to present more structured content because I feel that's what a lot of you guys need and want at the moment, but I'll take a note if there's a lot of interest in this idea. Alright, next. So, in the next 3 videos, part 3 specifically, so there's going to be a 3-part video series on substitution to follow, but part 3 will wrap up the whole algebra chapter with one of my favorite things ever, and that'll be applying the whole fractal self-similarity idea to actual tricky math problems. And then we'll resume this regular shorter math video format of specific math skills that you guys have sort of gotten used to previously and that we've interrupted with this math and nature and art section. All right, and then we'll move on to geometry, which I can't wait for. I'll leave you guys to it, so go forth and explore. And let us know in the comments if you've stumbled upon something interesting, an interesting question, whether it's just a question or a question and some ideas about it. And so please share that with everybody. I hope this has been of some help. I know there's not really any sort of tangible content here, but I want to reiterate the point of this video is to encourage you guys to really pursue your curiosities. And don't feel bad that maybe like, oh, I'm not doing something official or that's not helping me for some exam. In the long run, pursuing your own questions and curiosities is what's going to help you grow as a person. Alright, see you guys in the next video.